Finally, the moment I was hoping would come, the moment he would realize he chose the wrong one. There isn't any curse I could cast to match this feeling. The pain I knew when Ruffle turned his back on my heart. At last will be Regina's when her life falls apart. Suddenly the future's looking more appealing. Once I was filled with rage, now I'll enjoy the ride. It's so electrifying, watching all her dreams denied. Oh, I will fly into tomorrow, my sister full of sorrow, by paying for her sins. I'll smile all the while she's crying. Inside she's slowly dying, learning wicked always wins. Oh, evil may be powerful, but wicked always wins. If Mom could see me now, she would ache with regret, 'cause she witnessed all the glory wickedness gets. She went and made Regina queen and my blood boil. But that's all history. Time they all understood. What they call green within me, I just call looking good. Oh, I will fly into tomorrow, my sister full of sorrow, by paying for her sins. The strife, her life was so enchanted. She took it all for granted. Now she'll dream all could have wins. Oh, evil may be powerful, but wicked always wait. I'll give her a magic gift to bring the charmings down. When Regina stands victorious, I'll swoop right into town. When he lands, the spell was mine. Oh, Ruffle, he will see. He should have chosen me. So I will fly into tomorrow, delighting in her sorrow, as a better day begins. This time, nobody's gonna stop me. No evil's gonna top me. Oh, wicked always wins. A happy ending will be mine, 'cause wicked always wins.
You are invited to join the Council of the Crystal Key and have your revenge upon those who wronged you. Do you accept?
What took you so long?
Good. Follow the spider. It will bring you to me.
Careful now, Lyra. The spell feels a little slippery at first.
Twilight Sparkle magically held the balloon's basket up against a low-hanging cloud. The mint-green unicorn stepped onto the cloud with caution, and then fell into her mare friend's waiting embrace.
I was so worried
Bon Bon whimpered into Lyra's streaked mane.
when I couldn't find you. I thought...
Me too, Lyra replied with a choked sob.
But I'm here now, and you're okay. We're going to be okay, Bonnie. Princess Twilight is going to fix everything.
A tiny smile creased Twilight's mouth, but it didn't last long. She turned away with a flap of her wings and looked around. The evening skies were full of clouds. Pegasi had brought dozens of them, and most were full of huddled refugees. Other townsponis had fled north by hoof or ridden the awful tide to higher ground in makeshift rafts and boats. But not nearly enough had made it. Twilight's Horn was burning hot from directing the balloon and enchanting the rescued unicorns and earth ponies' hooves. She welcomed the distraction the pain brought. Twilight flew closer and magicked heated air into the balloon, leaving the cloud behind and resuming the search for ponies untouched by the slime. Her expression grew hard from the inner pressure of her grief when she looked down at the mournful couple. Next to the cakes, Spike peered through a pair of binoculars resting on the edge of the basket.
Anything?
They were nearing the southern edge of town now. Spike peered down at the schoolhouse through the slowly deepening gloom. Like the home that had split and doused poor Rarity, the place had been filled to bursting. The roof had ruptured, and slime covered the building like frosting on a gingerbread house. Spike caught only a glimpse of the full-sized bumps in the purple-covered yard before jerking the binoculars away.
It got the school,
he said, hollowly. Twilight squeezed her eyes shut and slowly nodded. For lack of anything else to say, Spike returned to his surveying. Spike's view focused further south on a discarded Stetson sitting near a lump in the surface of the slime. Not far from there, he could see the farmhouse's sludge-filled windows. With a shift of the focus dial, row upon row of soaked and drooping trees came into sight as well. Spike gulped.
Sweet Apple Acres. It's...
Applejack too, then.
Twilight's horn flared, and the balloon rose higher. She tightened her lips against the quiver building in them.
And
Her voice cracked. She took a shaky breath, forcing herself through the motions of the calming technique Princess Cadance had taught her.
breathe in, hold, and out. And the cottage?
In Spike's magnified view of Fluttershy's rustic home, a small team of Pegasi were struggling to evacuate the animals off the roof. Angel Bunny kicked and screamed in Thunderlane's grasp, flailing his legs toward the edge of a pale yellow hoof sticking out of the purple muck below. Spike lowered the binoculars. They slipped from his slackened grasp and fell to the basket's wicker floor. He turned to face Twilight. His wide, watery eyes spoke for him.
It got them all.
Twilight hung her head. Her horn's light went out.
Dash, where are you?
Just then, down below, her eyes settled on a small pool of colors in the dark, glistening expanse. She pointed a hoof.
Spike! Spike, look!
The balloon had drifted to the edge of town proper, and a small wooden shack peeked out from the slime coating of the ground like an island in a dark sea. 4 fillies were huddled on its roof, quivering in fear.
Girls, up here!
Mama, we're down here! Over here! We're over here! Help us! Please help us! Miss Twilight! Miss Twilight!
At the Cutie Mark Crusaders Clubhouse, Apple Bloom, Scootaloo, Sweetie Belle, and their classmate Silver Spoon perked up at the sound of Twilight's voice. Twilight swooped down to hover a short distance above the group.
Are you all okay?
The Crusaders all nodded. Apple Bloom's customary bow was missing. In its place, a small tiara partly held back her loose crimson mane. Silver Spoon,
Lift her!
Silver Spoon, sagged. Twilight flew back up and then dropped a rope from the balloon's basket.
Wrap up in this! I'll pull you up!
The fillies wound the rope around themselves. Twilight gripped its upper third with magic and slowly pulled the little ponies up to the balloon. At the same time, Spike dropped ballast sacks one after another. The sandbags made wet splatters as they struck the slime below. The ponies tumbled into the basket, all wide eyes and tiny mouths. Worry creased Sweetie Belle's features, and she looked up at Twilight.
Twilight? What about my mom and dad and Rarity? Are they okay?
Yeah, Applejack and Granny Smith and Big Macintosh and Sweet Apple Acres all right?
Are my aunts okay? They live on the other side of town. That's far enough away from the school that the slime couldn't reach them, right? Right? And Rainbow Dash is fine, I'll bet. She's too awesome for something like this to slow her down.
Silver Spoon adjusted her glasses to look up at Twilight imploringly.
Please. Please tell me his...
Silver Spoon, Scootaloo, your families are safe and Rainbow Dash is away getting help. Sweetie Belle, your parents have been airlifted and are on their way to Canterlot. But your sister...
Twilight bit her lower lip, struggling to find proper words.
It all happened too fast. Rarity didn't get away in time. Apple Bloom, the farm, is...
Twilight took a shaky breath, but it escaped in a choked squeak before she could complete her calming routine.
I'm so sorry.
Sweetie Belle's eyes widened further still.
Rarity?
Her lip quivered. Softly, she began to cry. Apple Bloom hung her head. Her loose mane half hid her face.
But we were supposed to look after each other. All together. All...
Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Scootaloo reached out and pulled Sweetie Belle into a hug. Silver Spoon made the same offer to Apple Bloom, who only hesitated for a moment before giving in. The pain in the fillies' faces and the sounds of their tiny sobs cut through Twilight like dragon fangs through crystal. She turned to face the group.
I'll help them.
Her oath sounded meek and desperate in her ears, but she pressed on.
I'll help Pinkie and Rarity and the Apples and Fluttershy, Ponyville and Dodge and Appaloosa. I will save them all. I will, I promise. I won't rest until I find a way to stop this.
Mrs. Cake looked up at Twilight and smiled.
We know, dearie. We believe in you.
There was more than goodwill in that wearied, pained, damp-eyed smile. For the first time in her life, Twilight was looking down at a face, looking up at her in faith. The same look of utter, awe-tinged trust she'd seen on the crowds at the Summer Sun celebration all those years ago, when she'd first laid eyes on Princess Celestia. All at once, as she flapped along next to the balloon and guided it toward Canterlot, Twilight felt very, very alone. Megan drifted into consciousness with a chill wind roaring in her ears and stinging on her cheeks. She opened her eyes and then squinted against a jarring blaze of color.
A rainbow?
Oh, you're awake. Try not to squirm, okay? You're pretty heavy.
The high but husky voice had come from above her. Coming fully to her senses, Megan realized that she was who knew how far off the ground, dangling in the grasp of a small, winged, garishly colored, talking horse that was following the course of a massive rainbow.
Oh, God, no. I was doing so good.
The jarring path of colors in the sky grew less blinding. Megan could make out a starry night sky beyond it.
Uh-oh. The rainbow's fading. Brace yourself.
Megan's captor tripled her speed, streaking everything around them into a blur. The wind felt like icy razors, and its howling was deafening. Megan thought she screamed, but she couldn't hear herself over the noise. A half-solid impact and a splash of wetness marked their passage through a dense cloud bank. Seconds later, Megan felt her innards lurch as the Pegasus pony released her, and Megan tumbled onto a polished marble floor. Her fingers slid on the cold stone as she tried to catch her breath while struggling her way onto all fours.
Where are you really? City Hall? Library? Think.
Ugh. Just wait here a second. Okay, I gotta go tell the princesses we're here.
The Pegasus raced off through an archway. Dozens of hoofbeats echoing on the stone filled the air with noise. High-pitched male and female voices clamored and barked orders. Words like every pony and princesses stood out like grenade blasts in the background din.
It's not real.
Megan whispered to herself.
You aren't in the country this time. This isn't safe. Wake up!
She pounded on the stone with a fist. The pain and the stone felt wretchedly real.
Damn it.
Megan squeezed her eyes shut and concentrated on her last sane memories. The sidewalk, the alley, the rain, rough asphalt, and hazing a mad dog. She got to her feet and opened her eyes.
Damn it! Damn it!
The balcony was a wide open space more than half the size of her entire apartment. The polished stone was sparkling white even by moonlight, and gilded lanterns holding magical glows provided warm golden light. The shadows of many more spires and towers were visible in the distance. The place was easily a dozen times the size of the dream castle she remembered, and the air smelled of garbage and car exhaust.
What? Ponyland is supposed to smell of sweet grass and flowers and fresh baking so the monsters can sneak up on you. Maybe I'm not all the way gone. Oh, please, yes. Maybe I'm getting better after all. Maybe I'm right about to snap.
Megan tensed. The booming voice carried an inhuman, sepulchral echo, but somehow it sounded familiar. She turned to face the speaker, a tall, lean, winged unicorn with a deep blue hide and a flowing mane and tail cut from the night sky. Megan's eyes widened. She backed away from the creature.
Don't!
She held up her hands defensively.
Don't come any closer! I remember you from my dream. You were chasing me.
Nay, mighty one,
The thing replied with an apologetic bow.
you here in the flesh. Equestria's future hangs in the balance, and only a...
Stop it!
Megan stood her ground and faced down the twisted hallucination.
Just stop! Why is this always what happens? This doesn't even make sense. I'm not a hero. I'm not your salvation. I can't even hold down a steady job. I don't want this, okay?
She turned away from the pony and shouted to the night sky.
I don't want this! Can anyone hear me? Get me help! Lock me up!
Megan's legs trembled. She fell to her knees and closed her eyes once more.
I don't want this!
Your voyage has been long, and many centuries have passed since you last walked these lands, O Megan,
said Luna in a halting tone.
Your upset is understandable. Please know that we only sought you out because of urgent and desperate need.
Megan opened her eyes. A shiver ran up her spine.
Centuries?
At least 1,500 years, yes. Perhaps longer. We cannot be sure. Parts of our history are unclear due to the depredations of Discord, the spirit of chaos.
Megan shuddered.
So they're all long dead now. Every single one of them? Not even one familiar face? Punishing myself for staying sane for too long, huh? God, that's sick. I'm sick.
As we said, the need is dire. A terrible tide of living slime is covering the land, leaving despair and devastation in its wake.
Slime.
Megan staggered to her feet.
That smell. That rotten, stinking, burning tire smell. Oh no. Not that. Not again. Not after.
Pulled once again by grim nightmare momentum, she stepped over to the edge of the balcony and looked down. Without the rainbow and the stinging wind and the blur of impossible speed, her view of the land below was now crystal clear. The pastoral splendor of the tableau had been vandalized, like dark purple paint splashed over a masterpiece. An updraft wind carried up a stronger waft of the stuff's repulsively familiar stench. Megan's fingers squeezed the balcony's stone railing.
No, no! Not Smooze. Not now. That's not fair.
Luna stepped closer to her.
You know this scourge, oh Megan?
Megan turned and then snatched Luna's spiraled horn in her right hand. She wrenched the pony into a head-on stare.
You know I do. We did this one. We did the Smooze. Why? Why am I doing this again?
Luna struggled in Megan's grasp. Her platinum-shod hooves skated on the polished floor.
Please, try to remain calm. If you have vanquished this threat before, can we not?
Nothing.
Megan pressed her forehead to Luna's, just below the base of her horn, stared into her enormous cyan eyes, and snarled.
Nothing can stop the Smooze. Not anymore.
She pushed Luna away and stalked past her into the castle, pulling her coat around herself against a chill that had nothing to do with the cool night air. Luna galloped through the castle and found her way to the roof of one of Canterlot's many spires. She fixed her stance, set her gaze on the horizon, and ignited her horn. The vast, silvery moon slowly crept up over the horizon, bathing the night in soft moonlight and calling forth long, translucent shadows. Luna's own shadow on the parapets grew a second horn, which then split into a branched antler. The shadow of her mane vanished, and the shadow of her chin sprouted a short, tufted beard. The distorted silhouette stroked its chin with an eagle-taloned paw, and then spoke.
Luna, you seem troubled. Do you want to talk about it?
Luna's back twitched. She gritted her teeth.
We have nothing to say to creatures of thy ilk, Discord.
Aw, now that hurts.
The shadow peeled away from the wall and inflated into full and opaque depth. Discord wiped away the black covering him with a swipe of his leonine paw, revealing himself in all his patchwork, chimerical glory.
I'm actually a very good listener, you know. In fact, I was listening the whole time I was turned to stone.
He gave a toothy grin and chuckled. Luna kept her back to the Draconequus, but her eyes widened.
The whole...
Yes, indeed. It's just incredible the meetings ponies will have around stone statues. The things they'll say, the things they'll do.
Luna turned to stare into Discord's eyes.
My fall from grace was long ago and a grave mistake. We have made peace with our past.
Discord frowned a frown so deep that it pulled his muzzle downward like a falling dollop of honey. He jerked it back into place with a sound like a tight metal spring wobbling.
Well, that's no fun at all. But I was more thinking about the present, really.
He steepled his mismatched fingers and tapped them together while rolling his eyes in an expression of faux nonchalance. Luna's eyes blazed white. Her mane blew back from an unseen tempest, and her voice took on a booming echo.
Do not toy with us, demon!
The outburst blew Discord's flesh away like dry leaves in a windstorm, leaving his implausible skeleton exposed.
Now, There's no need to get all royal on me. We both know you recognize the magic at work down there.
Luna scowled.
Dark magic is scarcely novel.
Maybe, but whose dark magic?
He reached up and twirled his horn and antler in his skeletal fingers, curling them downward in spirals. His voice took on a low, growling edge.
Does this ring a bell?
Luna's fury gave way to horror. Discord put a bony thumb between his teeth and blew. His flesh reappeared with a faint pop.
Yes, that's right. I know all about it.
He slithered up to the alicorn and draped his serpentine frame across her back like a saddle.
The one who taught you black magic all those years ago is back on his hooves and up to his old tricks again. And your little temper tantrum when you left the moon was what set him free.
Discord thrust his head skyward, put a paw to his chest, and then gave a formally inflected recitation.
In shadows bound lies Tambilon, till dark as midnight shines the dawn.
He ducked back down, brought his head up to Luna's ear, and whispered,
This is all your fault.
A sickened shudder shook Luna from her head to her hooves. She squeezed her eyes shut, and then sagged morosely.
We couldn't have known what effects bringing night to midday would create. And as far as we knew, long dead.
Luna took a shaky breath.
I'll just explain things to her. She'll understand. And once the Megan arrives...
Yes, of course. I'm sure Celestia won't mind that you endangered the world again. And I'm sure your storybook monster will do great. But just in case things don't pan out, I've got a backup plan.
Discord slithered off of Luna's back and stood next to her.
We villains have to look out for each other, you know.
Luna turned away once more.
I am not a villain.
Discord heaved a long-suffering sigh.
Luna, please. We're both ex-convicts here. You don't have to pretend. After all, if Celestia trusted you to keep doing good, why did she train a replacement?
Luna's wings twitched. She swished her tail.
Twilight Sparkle earned her rightful place among us. She is no threat to me. She has her own destiny to fulfill.
Discord sat in midair and curled into a pensive pose, his chin on his palm and his elbow on his knee.
Ah, I see. My mistake. I'm sure you're right. I mean, Cadence came into her own just fine.
Discord's eyes widened, as though he was struck by a sudden insight.
But then again, there aren't that many unruled empires around now, are there? Not so many empty thrones. And Celestia does seem awfully close with her most faithful student.
Luna stomped a hoof, unleashing thunder from the clear sky.
Leave us.
Discord slowly faded from sight, his voice taking on a hollow echo.
Remember what I said, Luna. Believe me, even when you're on top of the world, things can turn against you. Just like that.
He snapped his fingers and was gone. Alone once more, Luna looked up at the moon she'd escaped. So familiar, and yet so cold, and so distant, and so heavy with memories of past hurt. She sighed.
Oh, misty eye of the mountain below.
careful watch of my brother's soul. And should the sky be filled with fire and smoke, keep watching over during the sun. This is to end the fire, and we shall all burn together. Watch the flames climb high into the night, calling out, Father, stand by and we will watch the flames burn over the mountainside. And if we should die tonight, we should all die together. Raise a glass of wine for the last time, calling out, Father, prepare as we will watch the flames burn over and over the mountainside. Desolation comes upon the sky. Now I see fire inside the mountain. I see fire burning the trees. I see fire following souls. I see fire blood in the breeze, and I hope that you remember me. Should my being unfolding, surely I'll do the same. Confined in mountain holes, we go too close to the flame. Calling out, Father, hold fast and we will watch the flames burn over and over the mountainside. Desolation comes upon the sky. And I see fire inside the mountain. I see fire burning the trees. I see fire following souls. I see fire blood in the breeze, and I hope that you remember me. And if the night is burning, I will cover my eyes. For if the dark returns, then my brothers will die. And as the sky is falling down and crashed into this lonely town, and with that shadow upon the ground, I hear my people screaming now, and I see fire inside the mountains. I see fire burning the trees. I see fire following souls. I see fire blood in the breeze. I see fire. Oh, you know I saw a city burn out. And I see fire, feel the heat upon my skin. And I see fire, and I see fire burn over and on the mountainside.
Half a continent away, Grogar, the skeletal ram, stood on a smooth outcropping of rock in the smooth, flooded Badlands and watched the pony's despair reflected in the pale white glow of the enchanted slime pool. His jawbone clacked as he let out a raspy chuckle.
Well, it seems... And here, I was about to start worrying.
Long, jagged, snaking shadows crept at the edges of the light from the slime pool. A rumbling growl made the still air shiver. Grogar turned to peer at the darkness. The red pinpoints that served as his eyes narrowed.
Yes, my minions. It's your turn now. Time to make up for your earlier misdeeds. After all, the best time to strike a foe is when they've lost hope.
He turned back to the slime pool and looked down at it.
After centuries of scheming, my time has come at last, and Equestria's bright future is a thing of the past. The smooth is pouring onwards, and nothing can stop its flow. Princesses, are you watching? I hope you enjoy the show. One sludge, and slime, and eyeballs. I've covered everything. I'll stand upon the ruins.
His horns glowed. The pool swirled and undulated, resolving itself into the gently rippling image of an orange pony curled up in despair in a cart, floating adrift in the slime. It shifted to a cyan Pegasus stomping down the halls of Canterlot Castle, face streaked with angry tears. Then again to the Lunar Princess, alone on a balcony, her own expression unreadable.
How can you face another dawn, little ponies? There's nothing left to hope for.
The view shifted to a blonde human girl, paddling a hastily constructed raft into the smooths to flee Canterlot. Grogar's smile darkened. Nearly purring, he murmured,
They actually brought you here to help them. How wonderful.
Slightly muffled, Megan's voice emanated from the image.
The doctors always told me that this place was in my head. So they're wrong, or I've gone crazy.
She set down her oar and let the raft drift.
It's just like I remember. Pain and horror everywhere. Why'd that pony even bring me? I'm not their superhero.
She slumped down. She hugged her legs, resting her head on her knees.
I'm not anything at all.
The view swirled into the newly ascended Princess Twilight on the castle's front steps, looking down at the refugees. Her face was a mask of pain and barely restrained grief.
Oh, little prince, you've had your sweet, and now taste the sour side of ruling. There's nothing left.
The image shifted to Celestia, alone in her unlit chambers. She stared into the fireplace, as if the answers to all the questions in the universe could be found in the cold coals. She whispered to herself,
There's nothing left to hope for.
Her wings drooped. Her head hung down, and a tear slid down her alabaster cheek. Grogar's coiled horns flared, and the slime pool's glow snuffed out. He unleashed an echoing laugh, and was soon joined in his sadistic glee by the deep, throaty cackling of the growing horde of smooth, splattered dragons gathering around him.
In the dark of the night, I was tossing and turning. And the nightmare I had was as bad as can be. It scared me out of my wits. A corpse falling to bits. Then I opened my eyes and the nightmare was me. I was once the most mystical man in all Russia. When the royals betrayed me, they made a mistake. My curse made each of them pay. But one little girl got away. Little Anya, beware, Rasputin's awake. In the dark of the night, evil will find her. In the dark of the night, just before dawn. Revenge will be sweet when the curse is complete. In the dark of the night, she'll be gone. I can feel that my powers are slowly returned. Tie my sash and a dash of cologne for that smell. As the pieces fall into place, I'll see her crawl into place. The Svedanya under your grace. Farewell. In the dark of the night, terror will strike her. Terror's the least I can do. In the dark of the night, evil will bruise. Soon she will feel that her nightmares are real. In the dark of the night, she'll be through. In the dark of the night, evil will find her. In the dark of the night, terror comes through. Doom, my dear, here's a sign. It's the end of the night. In the dark of the night. In the dark of the night. Come, my minions, rise for your master. Let your evil shine. In the dark of the night. Come now, yes, fly ever faster. In the dark of the night. In the dark of the night. In the dark of the night. She'll be mine.
Princess, something must be done.
Princess Celestia sat in the castle's main throne room, surrounded by royal guards and functionaries and harried town mayors, and scrolls held in mid-air by golden glows.
2/3 of Ponyville's citizens are trapped in that sludge. Who knows how long they can survive that way?
Mayor Mare's pince-nez was missing, and her cravat hung loose around her sand-coloured neck,
The fields can't get any sun underneath all that muck either.
added a pony with a cutie mark comprised of a bunch of carrots.
What'll we do if our crops die?
I was told the magic keeping the refugees able to walk on clouds only lasts for 3 days, Your Highness.
Piped up a pale pink Pegasus mare.
I have no answers for my constituents, Your Highness. They keep asking me questions, and I have no answers to any of them.
How long is this crisis going to last?
Are we going to fight the slime?
Can we fight it? Is it even possible?
We could marshal our remaining citizenry into a combative force if you so order it, Your Highness. But
A lot of the survivors are children or ponies with no combat experience. I'm not sure how effective they'd be.
Monster that eats ponies.
There is no cause for panic.
Princess Celestia sat in the eye of the hurricane of pressing crises, calm and collected and serene. When she spoke, the clamoring crowd around her fell silent at once.
The danger is great, but we will overcome it.
She said firmly, making the words a statement of fact rather than a soothing blandishment.
My sister is summoning a powerful ally of ponykind, and even now my greatest student, the new princess, Twilight Sparkle, has joined her brave friends to...
The doors on the far side of the room glowed red and hurled themselves open, revealing Twilight Sparkle in the hallway beyond. She was gasping for breath through trembling lips, and her eyes shone with anguish. She tried to speak on, but her voice lost all volume.
Princess, please.
Princess Celestia showed not even the faintest sign of shock as she calmly addressed her entourage.
Give us a moment, if you please.
The group reluctantly dispersed, leaving the two alicorns alone in the expansive hall. Celestia gestured in welcome with her wings, beckoning her. Twilight hung her head and slowly came closer. Her legs shook with every step. She looked up at Celestia through a blur of tears.
Please. Please, tell me this is another test.
She galloped forward and threw herself against the princess. Her damp, bruised cheek slid on the elder alicorn's golden petrel. Celestia gently hugged Twilight back.
A test?
I'll fail it. I'll flunk right out. I don't care. Take it all away. Send me back. Please. Please just make it stop.
Celestia held her closer and unfolded her wings to wrap around them in a second hug.
Oh, Twilight Sparkle. I am so sorry. This is no test. But no matter what's happened, you'll never disappoint me. I am so proud of how far you've come.
Twilight pressed her face into Celestia's chest, hiding in the shade of her wings.
But they're all gone. It got them all. Rarity and Pinky, Applejack and Fluttershy. I let them down. We should have prepared faster. If I'd hurried more, if I hadn't tried to keep everything so organized, I could have...
Enough, Twilight.
Celestia spoke in the same tone Mrs. Cake had used, the stern kindness of a mother.
You tried your best. That's all any pony could have asked of you. Even now, as a princess, you will sometimes face challenges that are beyond you. You aren't perfect, but that doesn't mean you're a failure. Did you think less of me when I couldn't defeat Queen Chrysalis at your brother's wedding?
No, of course not. Never.
Twilight looked up at Celestia, her eyes wide.
But all those ponies...
Her head drooped again.
It's because of them that you need to be strong, Twilight. Thousands of ponies are in danger, and thousands more may join them soon. It can seem like a painful and lonely burden sometimes, to be the one every pony turns to.
A flicker of sadness passed through Celestia's features.
But that's when the magic of friendship lightens the load. When you feel frightened or alone or uncertain, think of the ones who love and support you, whether here or far away, whether safe or endangered. And be strong for them.
Twilight wiped her eyes with a front hoof and then looked into Celestia's eyes for a long, silent moment. She managed a weak smile and slowly nodded.
I will, Princess. Thank you.
Celestia squeezed her student closer before releasing her and smiling back. Princess Celestia stood on the upper landing of the stairs into Canterlot Castle. She peered down at the palace's expansive courtyard, her gaze easily piercing the gloom as she watched the ongoing trickle of fleeing refugees arrive. She narrowed her eyes.
You were there, in Cloudsdale. Why didn't you call out the Wonderbolts right away? Why didn't you raise the alarm?
Princess Luna stood behind her in the open doorway, out of reach of the light from the 2 enchanted lanterns flanking the massive arch.
I did all that was necessary, sister. The Megan will come, and our troubles will be over. Why raise a panic?
Ponies are suffering, Luna!
Celestia whirled around to face her sister.
We could have helped. We could have started the evacuation sooner.
Nay, sister. You know harmony, but I know fear. This is no mere parasprite swarm or a heavy rainstorm. There is little more they could have done. The populace would have filled their extra time with worry, and that worry would have bloomed into chaos or stagnated into carelessness. Better it came suddenly and forced them into action with less time to ponder.
There's no way to know that for certain.
Celestia frowned.
You know more about all this than you're saying. I can tell.
Luna backed away, deeper into the shadows. Her turquoise eyes shone in the dark.
I know nothing of how to end this, sister. If there was anything I could do, I promise you I would do it.
Celestia stared into her sister's eyes for a silent moment that seemed to stretch on for centuries. But then her expression softened.
You don't have to be afraid of me, Luna. You know that, don't you?
Her tone was gentle, but faintly pleading.
I do. I'm not.
Luna shifted uneasily.
I must go raise the moon.
She turned and fled, her shod hooves loudly ringing off the polished stone floor. Celestia inhaled to speak, to call her sister back, but then let out the breath in a soft sigh. She trotted back into the castle. Applebloom sat and watched her friends make their apologies and get taken away one by one, her slouch and her frown deepening with every departure. By the time it tipped over onto her side.
Applebloom?
Asked the green-maned yellow mare softly.
It's me. From the reunion, remember?
Applebloom didn't answer.
Saw the farm when the Pegasi lifted me. It's just terrible. I'm so sorry, Sugar Cube.
Don't call me that.
Apple Fritter flinched.
I'm sorry, sweetheart.
My name is April Bloom. Not Sugar Cube, not Sweetheart, April Bloom.
Apple Fritter shot Twilight a helpless look.
Okay. A bunch of us have gathered up in a bushel over yonder. I reckon it'd be a good idea for you to come join your kin while Princess Twilight figures out what happens next.